I know, but I'm starting now. All right, we are live. Sorry about that technical difficulty. Bob had some audio issues, and as well as and then that whole live stream I had to restart, and so it's took a while to get back to this point actually. So
Technology
technology
sucks.
sucks. Yes, it does.
Oh,
Um,
whoa. Hold on.
yeah, I can hear you. It's all right. Whoa.
Yeah, that was my bad. I forgot I still had the stream link open in my browser, so like all of a sudden we started hearing the live stream again, like looping back. Are you still there?
I'm here.
Okay, good. Let's hope it stays that way.
Indeed, that'd be a great way to start off the podcast. I know that. Already with so many difficulties. So do you think for weekly poll? So this is behind the scenes, guys. You get some behind the scenes here. Do you think for weekly poll? Do you think we go with what I was talking about, or you like that, or no?
Wait, I'm sorry, what?
I don't know. I feel like that question was already asked. What I was talking about, so I feel like it'd be kind of not plagiarism because it's a question anyone can ask it, but it's not plagiarism at all because it's just an interesting question. But we can maybe say that for a little later down the line because it is a good question. I do like it.
Yeah, I say save it for later.
Yeah, that's a little too close.
Now I lost the. When I heard that audio, I quickly closed the stream and lost the link.
So what do you think we do for weekly poll?
Uh,
Throwing you on the spot. You have good. You usually can make up good debate points though.
There's a conversation going on about backwards coasters. Um, hold on. I'm sorry.
And that is it. That is the question. Backwards coasters.
I don't know what's going on anymore.
There's a lot of stuff on. Are you looking on Reddit?
No, I'm trying to copy the link over.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I think I finally did this. Let's make sure this is right. We might get an echo for a second. Sorry. Okay. All right, I think that's done. Good Lord. My brain hurts. All right. Yeah, poll. Weekly poll. Weekly poll. Mm, did we ever ask the what was that question I said about a couple weeks ago and you said let's do that later?
I think we said that on. I think we said we couldn't remember that last week. I think you brought that up again.
I think wasn't it something about like what coaster manufacturers? It was something about S&S.
Yeah. And I said we should wait till we, discuss SNS more, like in an episode, than just kind of throw them in there. Because that episode we didn't really talk about SNS at all. We're not really doing that tonight either. I don't know. I think you were talking about is SNS like, are they up and coming or something like that?
Yeah, are they becoming a thing?
I just don't think that's enough to talk about in a break run episode. Like that's not really like we could talk about that for like 5-10 minutes, how they're being innovative and stuff, and then that'd be kind of it. And I think it's definitely a yes answer. Like it's pretty.
Well, it was more like was it S&S or like the future of different companies?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Um, I just noticed the stream is unlisted. That's why it's not showing up.
That is a problem.
Yeah, so it's live, but it's unlisted, so you have to have the link.
There we go. Now it is not. Oh boy. It wasn't unlisted before. I don't know why it is now.
Because YouTube likes to be difficult.
Indeed. I have it unlisted. I have every podcast episode. Once we record the live stream, I have it unlisted because if you have like a bunch of live streams, it looks kind of unprofessional and weird and random. I unlist them usually after, like a couple of days after, so people can watch them. But then you have to go to a specific folder of live streams if you want to watch the live streams from then on. All right, so I don't know, weekly poll. Do you think Orion's going to be affected by this break run? I don't know. I feel like that's a little again, because then if we do that, then we'll talk about that on next week's show. And we're already talking about that on this week's show.
It was going to be, wait, what?
Talking about Orion, how that break run's going to affect that ride. If it is, will it?
Oh, yeah. You mean the trim break, not a break run.
Will it? Yeah, whatever.
That's why I was confused. I mean, that's a good poll.
If we do that though, then we'll bring it back up on next week's show, and that's unnecessary because we already talked about it on this week's show. I like to kind of build off a question. Maybe it can be based on something on the show, but I would like it to be something that we didn't really talk about during the show because we're basically going to answer that question as if we had it on the break run this week's show. So it'd be kind of pointless to have next week, you know. We have a lot of attraction news. I like that. I mean, it's kind of good though because that's a lot to talk about. And we have room now because I just downgraded a lot of the files. So now let's see how much storage we have. It should be like a lot more. Let me see currently. Oh yeah, wow. It went down from taking about 150 megabytes and now it's taking up only 80. So now we have a lot of room. We could record like 10 more shows and do them this month now. That's nice.
So if you want like older shows, is every episode still on the, like, once you upload an episode, like, do you keep them all live, like up?
Yes, they're on a feed right now. Yeah.
If you ever want to move like the older ones to another storage site, I have places like you can put a link to them.
Yeah, no, this keeps them all up for a good. It revamps on a monthly cycle. So once I finish a month, then these episodes are good. They don't need to be moved, or they're not taking up space or anything like that.
So they just keep them archived for you?
Yep.
Okay.
Indeed. All right, so I don't know, weekly poll. We gotta think. We gotta quickly go real quick. Jot it down. Think of a good. Come on, Bob. You're controversial.
Do you think Six Flags is going to spring back, or do you think they're going to have a sluggish few years?
Yeah, that could be good. Is Six Flags going on a downward spiral, something like that? I mean, but again, we're going to talk about that kind of. You know, we're going to kind of discuss that.
Yeah.
If they are going on a downward spiral with their stocks falling, that's kind of the point to be made. That is a funny image.
Yeah, I love it.
All right. What do you think? We talked about most anticipated ride of 2020. That's going to be the break run this week. Let me look at previous break runs. Maybe we can pop up some ideas. I know you guys in the live stream are probably like, get started, come on. But this is the bonus of watching this, is you get to see this process, right? You get to witness firsthand the unpreparedness of the hosts and see how we just throw everyone. All right, so before we had, one of them was Battle of the Bushes. That sounds kind of weird. But Pantheon of Pantheon or Iron Gwazi. We had our winter event, Something You Look Forward To. I remember that was not too long ago. Let's see. Let's go back. Let's pull far here. This is September. Blah, 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 blah. Launch or chain lift? Which do you prefer? Let's see what else I got. I think I have to go back to
stand-up coasters.
Yeah.
Do you think they're a thing of the past?
That is interesting. And look what I just got onto. Guess what I just clicked onto? I guess this is the episode. Is a stand-up coaster converted into a floorless? A new credit. I just got onto that. onto that thing.
Yeah, there's a debate.
I remember the good old days when that was like the main debate we would have every time we saw each other. All right, let's. But I think that kind of is. That's kind of true. I mean, there's no manufacturer producing them right now.
Yeah, it's more of, do you think we'll ever see another stand-up built?
All right, that's a better way to word it. Do you think we could discuss that for a while on a break run in a future episode, though, like next week?
Yeah. I mean, not real long, but I think we could.
Depending on the results as well.
Yeah. I mean, I'll mention Togo. You never did, or no, you rode Shockwave, right?
Yeah, I rode Shockwave a lot. I probably rode it like 15, 20 times.
I love Shockwave. I really love.
I enjoyed Shockwave, yeah.
The Togo stand-ups were so much better.
I agree. I do not enjoy the B&Ms. Other than the Vortex at Carowinds is terrible. I haven't done Firebird. I think
Firebird was better than Apocalypse, though.
I liked Apocalypse. I liked
Apocalypse too. I mean,
but you hate Firebird.
Huh?
Don't you hate Firebird?
Wait, that's what I meant. Apocalypse was better than Firebird.
All right, I was about to say, wait a second. You must have really hated Apocalypse then.
No, I liked him. I mean, Apocalypse kind of hurt my head a little bit, but not nearly as bad as Firebird's. Just, oh God, so painful.
Yeah, it is. It was not good. You ready?
Yep.
I'm gonna bring up Jeepers It's Winter and East Coaster again, just in case anyone missed it last week. We're not gonna go like into a full discussion about it again like we did last week's show, but just gonna bring it up just for people that are, and to keep people up to date, just in case. All right, so
that's next weekend already, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, Jeepers.
Is it Saturday? It's Saturday, right? It's a Saturday.
Yeah.
So that 25th.
No, not this Saturday. Next Saturday.
No, I know it's this Saturday. If it was this Saturday, I would not be able to attend. And then East Coaster's the 1st of February? The 8th?
Yeah, it's the following weekend.
So it's the 1st of, so it's the Saturday, it's the second. Is it a Saturday or a Sunday? It's Saturday, right?
Saturday. Well, Friday night's the tour of Hershey.
Yeah.
Saturday's the main event, and then Sunday is something.
Yeah, all right, let's start.
Hopefully they'll tell us what that's going to be soon. I'm sure Pam's hoping for GCI.
All right, let's test your audio real quick.
Testing audio. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing. Did you get it?
I did. Let's try that again, though, because it was a little quiet. Ready, set, go.
Testing, testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing audio. 1, 2, 3.
It's a little quiet, but we can work with it, I guess. I can change that once we go back into post-production.
I'll fix it in post.
All right, let's test my audio. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Coaster Talk. This is a test of the episode number 27, episode 57.
27?
27 was the good old
Back in
days.
time.
All right, let's see how that works. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Coaster Talk. This is a test of the episode number 27, episode 57. 27 was the good old days. All right, so it sounds good. There's none of your feedback either. That's good. That's what I always look for, because that sometimes happens. Sometimes I'll hear you talking in the background in my audio, and it's like, oh shit, I gotta edit that. It is not fun when that happens, because then I have to line it up. I have to line it up perfectly.
It's like a stadium.
Yeah, and if I don't line it up perfectly, then exactly, that's how it sounds.
Coaster, coaster, coaster.
Yeah, all right, here we go. I guess I'll start yours first. That's kind of dumb, actually. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Coaster Talk, your source for everything roller coasters. My name is James Barber, and we are here with our co-host, Bob.
And I screwed that up.
That's all right.
I tripped over my tongue.
Get the jitterbugs out. All right, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Coaster Talk, your source for everything roller coasters. My name is James Barber, and I'm your host, and we're here with the co-host of the show, Bob.
Here again, hello. Hold on. Let's do it this way. This sounds better. You say, hi, I'm James Barber, and I'll say, hi, I'm Bob Mertz. And then you go.
Right.
You go from there. Does that work for you?
I can say I'm the host, James, and then you'll be like, and I'm co-host Bob, or whatever, yeah.
And I'm Bob Mertz, the co-host.
Or yeah, something like that. Well, yeah, that's good. All right. Let me delete this because it's excess audio. All right. Ready, set, go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Coaster Talk, your source for everything roller coasters. My name is James Barber.
And I'm Bob Mertz.
And we are your hosts, and today is episode number 57 of Coaster Talk, your source for everything. Why did this happen, Bob? Why does this happen? We had it down to a T, and then this happens. All right, one more time. We got it. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Coaster Talk, your source for everything roller coasters. I am your host, James Barber.
And I'm your co-host, Bob Mertz.
And it is January 16th, 2019. I cannot... it's not...
I cannot talk?
It's not 2019. Who put that in the rundown? It says 2019 in the rundown.
What?
I'm scripted. I'm relying on a script. I can't even say the date of the... On the rundown, it says I never changed it from 2019 to 2020. All right. Okay, that was good though. That was solid. We didn't. That was just a mechanical error, not really a. I guess if I'd said something wrong, it's a mechanical error too. But whatever. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Coaster Talk, your source for everything roller coasters. This is episode number 57, and I am your host, James Barber.
And I'm your co-host, Bob Mertz.
And it is January 16th, 2020. I cannot believe I'm saying 2020, but I am. I know we've had a couple episodes since then, but it's still hard to believe that a new decade has begun. But with that new decade brings a couple of new things that we're going to be doing. We have a couple events coming up, and of course we have a really long season coming up. It's going to be filled with new attractions and things like that, which we'll discuss later in the show, actually. But yeah, we are going to Jeepers It's Winter, an ACE event, which we talked about last week. So we're not going to talk too much about the actual content of the events, but we are going to. I'm just going to let you guys know that is January 25th, that Saturday, and then the East Coaster event at Hershey Park is February 1st, that Friday. So yes, we have a lot going on. That's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of interviews with industry specialists and park operators and engineers, and so many cool things going on. We're going to get presentations in both parks, and we're going to get a Pantheon construction tour.
Yes, I'm very looking forward to that.
Yeah, we are very looking forward to that. So that's what's going on then. We're just letting you guys know that, so you guys know what we're going to be up to, and you know that we're not going to be lazy coaster podcast. We're going to be out there in the industry, finding out what's going on for your viewing pleasure. And your listening pleasure as well, because this is a YouTube/podcast channel as well. Which, if you don't know, every Thursday night at 8:30, we'll be doing a live stream of this podcast process. We've actually been live for about half an hour or so trying to get this. We had a little bit of technical difficulties trying to start up this episode.
8:30 or when we get the bugs worked out.
8:30 or 9:30 if that's the Coaster Talk podcast standard time. You know, we're always an hour behind. Not always. We're usually actually pretty good, but this week we had a little bit of technical difficulties starting off things. But yeah, we have a lot of great things going on, innovation going on here at Coaster Talk. We have our website up now. Everything's getting. Bob has a new Twitter. We have a lot of great things going on here, so we're definitely getting around to being a lot more successful, a lot more professional, and I'm really looking forward to the future of this show. So we're going to jump right into the segment that starts off each and every show with an exciting and a good amount of things to talk about in the segment called Attraction News. That was good. I like that.
Yeah. I like it. It works so much better when I just introduce myself. Like, it just feels more natural to me.
Hello, everybody. All right, that works. For a second, it said something went wrong in the recording process, and I'm like, no. And then it was like, but we're gonna save it still, so it works. And I'm like, oh, thank God. I was like, if we have to do that again, I'm going to. That would not be fun.
So I'm trying to view the chat on my phone, but it looks like it's not working.
Should. I'm viewing.
Yeah, it worked okay last week.
I'm viewing it currently.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see this or not, but it's just a blank square.
Wait, I cannot look at you right now. Let me see. Now I'm looking. Oh, I don't know. Is that your feed of this podcast? This live stream? Like you can't even see the video?
No, the video's up there.
All right. Well, here's my. Can you see? I don't even know if you can see me. I cannot change that actually. All right. Well, it's not on mine. On my end, here. Look on the live stream, and I'll show it on the live stream real quick. You can see.
No, it's fine.
I don't know.
Yeah, just don't try to chat with me because I can't hear you. I can't see you.
If you do, can you not get on desktop and do it?
That taxes my computer a lot. I mean, it probably will work, but
all right,
I'm not going to risk it.
Just get into the episode.
Just if anybody tries to say hi to me, tell them I can't see them.
Hello, Bob.
Hi. Hi, everyone in chat world.
You're a celeb in the chat. All right, here we go. Wow, I'm glad I caught that real quick. It says Park Ha.
Yeah, I forgot. I saw that and I wanted to tell you, but then we started talking about something else.
All right, here we go. You ready?
You totally would have read that too.
Yeah, I would have been like, Park Ha Project. All right, here we go. So we know Busch Gardens Tampa is receiving Iron Gwazi for 2020, and we're very excited about that. However, we already know of a future project, 2021 most likely, which is codenamed Project Jethro. And this project involves demolition, grading, and drainage work around where the former Rhino Rally attraction once was. I'm not exactly sure what the Rhino Rally attraction was before. Are you aware of what that was? Was that
No, I've actually never been to Tampa.
Yeah, I just kind of found that article. I believe it was an article online as well. So I don't know what Rhino Rally was. It sounds something like, it's definitely like a children's or family I don't know, maybe like a car ride or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. Sounds something around that. Nonetheless, the rumors seem to point that it's going to be an S&S Scream and Swing. A lot of people are saying that, and that would make sense because the Busch parks seem to follow each other. There's a trend, you know. When Busch got Tempesto 2016, you know, 2 years later, they received Tigris at Busch Gardens Tampa, and then when Verbolten was released, they had Busch Gardens Tampa. They released Cheetah Hunt, which is another launched. Which I think they consider Cheetah Hunt a family coaster, even though it has an inversion. But I believe on their actual website they did consider it or classify it as a family coaster. Then when Busch got Invader, and then when Busch Gardens Tampa got Cobra's Curse, which they're both family coasters, and then Pantheon this year and Iron Gwazi, you know, 2 humongous thrill coasters. So they're not all like obviously lined up like Tempesto and Tigris, where they're the exact same model, which is good. But they do seem to follow a pattern of, you know, like high thrill coaster 1 year. High thrill coaster the next year at another park. You know, if you follow a bit of a trend. And I also wanted to point out, I think Mock Tower opened in like 2012, and then like Falcon's Fury opened in like 2014. So it's like they seem to do very similar rides every once in a while. Every couple of years they do like very similar rides and add things like that. So that would make a lot of sense for a Scream and Swing. Finnegan's Flyer came last year, and then Tampa adds a Scream and Swing. That would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it definitely does make sense. I mean, it's interesting because there are still people that still feel that the attraction at Busch Gardens Williamsburg may also be the Project 2021. That Project 2021 may be a flat ride as well. But I think more people are leaning towards the coaster there.
Yeah, I agree.
I think a Scream and Swing would make sense, but at the same time, I mean, SeaWorld's kind of going coaster crazy, and there's already other parks that have rumors of coasters in the SeaWorld chain. So I think it's, you know, I kind of feel like it may be more coaster related. I did look up Rhino Rally was actually a safari adventure built by Vekoma.
Oh, all right.
So, I mean, kind of, yeah, I think there's, you know, having more footprint there might
but
actually
I believe the project outlined by this document or whatever. I think they found actual documents that looked very reminiscent of a Scream and Swing, because I believe this website also, I believe this was a news website that like a Fox or something like that, and then that they were actually saying that was a rumor in this community, which is kind of strange for like a major news corporation to even know what a Scream and Swing is, but that's what
yeah. Every now and then you find those few news outlets that know what they're talking about.
So I don't know. We'll see. This is an interesting thing to pick up on. The SeaWorld parks are flying, and it's crazy that we're already hearing about 20. I mean, we're getting one of the biggest coasters out of 2020 from Busch Gardens Tampa, and we're already looking towards 2021 because we don't know what to expect from SeaWorld. That's just, they're keeping us on our toes.
This is, I mean, this very well could be SeaWorld's decade.
Oh yeah,
if they keep this up,
if they play their cards right. Then they're starting to play their cards right already, but if they keep playing them right, this is going to be a SeaWorld dominated decade. Better way to put it, yeah. Walibi Belgium is opening up a mega coaster in 2021, and so we are getting We are hearing that they are actually claiming that they're going to be opening the ride in April of 2021, and construction is going to start this February. So that's very very good to hear, because that means that they're on top of it, and they're definitely planning on opening it as soon as possible, April 2021, because I believe that's their opening month is April. So that's awesome. The park says that the ride's going to go up to 68 miles an hour with an average speed of 62 miles an hour. And currently Wallaby Holland is undergoing a $100 million Euro investment. And they're going to spend over $50 million on this project that they're doing right now with this mega coaster. And they want to become, and this is what they stated in this article, they wanted to become Belgium's most visited park again. So I don't know what other Belgium park is the most popular. I was trying to find, and I couldn't find that, but I don't know, maybe there is one out there that is more popular, because it said again, like that was a specific, like they once were and now they're not anymore, and they want to reach 1.8 million visitors per year. So this mega coaster, it looks fantastic. There was a couple of years ago at IAAPA, it was released, I believe it was 2019 or 2018 IAAPA, that they had like the video footage of this ride. And then Park Asterix, their mega coaster was also, their launch coaster, was revealed at that as well, because that was very similar to Pantheon. That's a lot of people are comparing to Pantheon, and that's going to open in 2020 as well. So it's good to hear that this is still on track to open in 2021. They're going to try to open it as soon as possible. They're starting in February, which is pretty great, and they are looking to do a lot of innovation, and they are looking to invest in their park very highly. 100 million euros. I'm not 100% sure what that translates to in American currency. It's probably there. I think the euro is pretty close to the American dollar. So I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, it's actually so 100 million euros is 111 million US dollars. So that's still a lot of money, and it's a very good amount of money that they're spending on building up this park.
So it's the SeaWorld of Belgium?
It is, yeah. They're investing and they're adding a really awesome mega coaster. That thing looks very awesome, very unique. It's Intamin seems to be utilizing the RMC airtime hill, the banked airtime hill, because on this as well, I know we're seeing it on Pantheon now, and that looks awesome. But this was the original coaster that originated from, because I remember watching this back in 2018 or 2019 whenever IAAPA was released at, and I was like, wait a second, it has a banked airtime hill. What? I was going crazy. I was like, no way. It was crazy. And now we're seeing that on Pantheon. I don't know if they're going to start kind of using that more, because I mean, people love that thing. People love the bank airtime.
I've been
and
this is the thing that airtime hill in Pantheon. I mean, whether or not the whole idea came from RMC, you can't really confirm or deny that. It's hard to say, but the one on Pantheon looks absolutely insane. And I kind of feel like it's like, okay, if we want to say RMC kind of started it, I think Intamin is going to be Intamin and take it to another level where.
Oh yeah, I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that Intamin, and they might even do it better. It looks that airtime hill looks a lot more banked and a lot more like it's going to be a lot more intense than like Steel Vengeance is. But I definitely think that RMC was like the first. They started on even like pre Steel Vengeance. They had the banked airtime hill on multiple other of their rides, where you bank left and bank right and go. That's just their thing. And then with Steel Vengeance, when they really amplified it to the next level, I think Intamin just saw that and was like, that looks awesome. Let's try that on one of our coasters. I'm not saying that it's like plagiarism or they're stealing anything or anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. But what I'm saying is, like, I mean, Intamin, look at how many times Intamin has built a coaster, and like the park is like, we want like this kind of level of a thrill, and the coaster ends up being like the ultimate thrill. Yeah. Almost too much for the park. We see that kind of with I-305 and Skyrush. Those are two examples of where, the park was kind of wanting something and got a whole lot more. I mean, depending on how you look at it, more. But it was definitely more intense than was intended. And I kind of feel like this Outer Bank turn on Pantheon may actually end up falling into that same category.
Yeah, that is an interesting take. Mm-hmm. An ironic thing about this coaster, and kind of why I wanted to include this first, is because Six Flags Great Adventure has just started, or not even, they haven't even started construction. The supports for New Jersey Devil Coaster have just arrived. So that's kind of ironic because they have a coaster in Belgium that's not even opening until 2021, and that's already started construction. And Jersey Devil, I'm not sure if they've started construction at this point. This is about a couple-day-old article. They might have started at this point. This is looking maybe like another West Coast Racers. I don't know if it's going to be that extreme. Not that extreme, but it looks to be like a late summer opening because, I mean, every other 2020 coaster, you look at Orion, Candemonium, Pantheon, they're already like pretty much completed. Orion's almost completed.
Yeah, but I don't know that you can draw that conclusion. It seems like a late start, but at the same time, like, first of all, I think the design of the Raptor coasters, I think are like, it's got like, it bolts together a lot faster. I think it'll go up a lot faster.
And if this was any other chain than Six Flags, I would agree with what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is going to be they're going to pull a Six Flags move here.
I think from that angle, yes, this could be a late opening because it's Six Flags. Yeah. But just because they're starting in January, that to me doesn't say late opening itself.
Well, no, I don't. Not that. But again, because this is a Six Flags chain, I feel like this is it's showing a little bit of precursor to kind of what happened with those West Coast racers.
But West Coast Racers started construction a lot later as well.
A lot later, yeah. I'm not saying
Um,
I'm not saying it's gonna be as extreme as West Coast racers, but a late summer opening is just not ideal. I think for many New Jersey enthusiasts, general public. I mean, you don't want to wait till the late summer to get your new coaster. I mean, you want to be able to run that all summer. Summer is the prime time to go to the theme park, and you don't want to wait to the. I mean, and it's not even that late summer isn't even. That's what Six Flags normally does with their rides. They'll open up their rides in late summer. But I just don't. That's not ideal. I think that they need to look into that and try to get their coasters open. That's why parks try to get them open in early as possible because you want your 2020 season pass holders to get utilize their pass as much as possible. And I don't think opening up a coaster in late summer.
but
That's usually what Six Flags does anyway, even if it's not even a part of the schedule, even if it's not because they're behind.
The thing with Six Flags, though, is I think that I mean, you're not paying for that. Getting into a Six Flags park is really cheap. And I think that there's a high probability that when Six Flags approaches a manufacturer, they say, hey, you can put us on the back burner if you give us this kind of a discount. And I kind of like it may be they go to RMC and they're like, RMC's like, look, we have all these other projects going on that we have to have done, by March or April or May or whatever that park is determined to open by. And they say, okay, Six Flags, we may not be able to make that, the start of your season. And, RMC may in turn say, okay, well, here's what we'll do. We'll give you this discount of whatever.
Yeah.
And, in giving you this discount, that means that we push the deadline back if we have to.
Yeah, that's very likely. I don't know if it's very likely, but that's an interesting. I mean, that very well could be the case. So I don't know. I feel like I know you don't pay a lot to get in Six Flags, but you still have to have some level of professionalism. I don't think opening up coasters late summer all the time, and so inconsistently too. I mean, what they did with West Coast Racers this year is complete, utter failure, and you can't do that. I mean, I know that they don't. I mean, they kind of play it off like it's fine and everything's great, but you can't.
We don't know what went on with West Coast Racers.
I don't know, man, but it does not take a year to build that. That's crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of it.
There could have easily been difficulties. I don't know, and again, we don't know the depth of what happened, but that's pretty crazy. I feel like if that was any other chain, they would have had that open 5.
I think the problem with Six Flags isn't so much that they're opening coasters late. It's that they're kind of leading the expectation of, oh, we're going to start the season with this, and then as it gets closer, fans are going, no, they're not going to make that. They're not going to make that. Like, I think if Six Flags came out and said Jersey Devil's going to open mid-July, that'd be a whole different story.
Yeah, well, at that point, you're setting an expectation.
Right, exactly.
Yes,
I think that's the problem is the expectations are just all over the place. Nobody really knows what to expect. And that's what I think that's where the frustration comes out. If they come right out and say, look, there's this Jersey Devil, like instead of saying opening 2020, they say opening July 2020 or, whatever the case may be. Like that sets your expectations. People can plan around that. And even with that, you can still drive your season pass sales because, July, like I still want to go like, the end of July and maybe twice in August. So I'll buy a season pass. I think that's where Six Flags problem is. It's not that like, opening a coaster late in the season isn't necessarily the problem. It's just the expectation of it.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think that factors into what I was saying is that, I mean, if they set a standard of doing that, and they do that regularly when they announce these rides and things like that, we don't see them open till late summer. But I think you have to actually, again, because with parks, the normal set standard is to open the ride as soon as possible. With not even just Six Flags, or SeaWorld, but just in general in theme park industry, that's what you want to do. That's what the goal is. Everyone, enthusiasts know that. General public know that. When it's new for 2019, new for 2020, it's going to open as soon as they possibly can get it open. Or at least not with West Coast Racers case, obviously, but
Yeah,
But if they set that expectation, or even with West Coast Racers, I mean, they didn't even say anything. They never said really anything about what was happening. If they were like,
right.
we're looking at
If they were
January,
upfront
we're
about
looking
it,
at
it would be a
whatever.
different story.
Yeah, and it's just you can't put on this fake mask of like everything's great, everything's perfect. It's new for 2019. It's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, and then it just never comes. And then you have an entire not only enthusiast community but general public community deeply, deeply disappointed in the chain. And that's how this reputation started, is because they put on this fake happy glove over top of this failure they have.
It's not actually just Six Flags though. Park West Reunidos has the same issue, and we saw. I mean, with SNS, and you can't really say, oh, SNS. I mean,
well,
SNS has turned around.
That's different, I think, because that's such a small. We haven't seen Parkway Reunidos do that constantly because they don't have that many
Merlin's
parks.
Mayhem was that way. Still Curtain.
That's two coasters, and that's with the same manufacturer.
Right.
It could have easily
what
been
I'm
the
saying
same
is,
faults.
What we can see is Parkway doesn't like, they don't like to spend the money on attractions. So like they're kind of coming at it at the same, as far as like capital expenditures on rides, on major rides. Parkway and Six Flags aren't. I mean, they're pretty similar in that regard, and I kind of see the same thing with like Still Curtain. It was like, this is, we want to get this new ride and we want to announce it, but I don't think they like dumped the money into it to make sure we hit the deadline. I mean, the entire Steelers lands never did open for 2020. That's hopefully going to open for,
2019.
It did open for 2019 and should open for 2020. But like, that's just kind of like, those are the parks that you kind of like, you would kind of say like, yeah, they don't really put money into attractions and they kind of have the same thing happening.
That's a fair point. Yeah. Especially with the Steelers land not opening. That definitely is valid. I still think it's a little, because I mean, it's a smaller, they own a smaller amount of parks and it's a little different, but I think it's very, very similar, I guess, in terms of what you're saying. In terms of what you're comparing it to.
I know people think that about Park West, but really Park West is actually quite large.
I know they're a large corporation, but the parks they own are small, and they don't. It's not like they're adding a new ride every year like Six Flags, so we don't really have a lot to compare to. Or Six Flags does this every year with multiple rides, and it's like a continuous cycle of the same stuff. I mean, we saw Merlin's Mayhem, and now we're seeing this, so it's not as much, it's not as frequent. If they start to add new stuff at other parks and things like that, and we start seeing that more often, and again, maybe they did. Maybe there's more historical accounts that say that you're correct, and that does happen a lot. I don't know. Maybe other rides, I don't know, that have opened previously. Because when did they acquire the all these North American parks and Kennywood and all that?
Well, I think it was 2007 was the major chunk that they acquired.
So maybe like from then, maybe they've added it. I think when did Skyrocket come?
That's what I was kind of thinking of Skyrocket too, and that was another. I mean, Skyrocket sat down for so long, and
I mean,
like I know there were a lot of issues with that, and there, being a one-off, it was hard for the manufacturer and everything. But I kind of like also see that, I also could see Kennywood or Park West going, hey, Premier, like we really need to get this up, but at the same time, like we're not going to dump millions of dollars into fixing this immediately. If we could save some money and like do a back burner kind of thing, I could totally see them doing that type of scenario. I'm not saying that's definitely what happened, but it kind of fits into the, into what we've seen.
That's more valid, yeah. Now that I'm thinking about that, I think that is more valid is in terms of a claim to compare them to. But yeah, so we're going to see a late opening with Jersey Devil. Who knows? I mean, maybe not. Maybe we won't. We don't know. It's too early to tell, but based on almost like we're predicting weather here, I think it seems to be...
Actually, the weather does play into this as well.
Yeah. And now we're moving on to SeaWorld, another chain that we are very fond of, very fond of. And the rumor is that they are... SeaWorld Orlando in particular has a rumor floating around it with a new filing for a project, which it looks to be a new coaster. The overall project is about 3.5 acres... which Gatekeeper at Cedar Point occupies the same acreage, and that is important because the rumor is that this is going to be a wing coaster and that would go over the entrance of SeaWorld. That's what the rumor is in the community is that this would be a very similar concept. And again, they're both 3.5 acres, and they both occupy very similar. It would be a very similar layout. Go over the gate, and so yeah, that's a very interesting concept. Very interesting. The SeaWorld again. We're looking to see another SeaWorld awesome innovation here. Not
Yeah.
an innovation, but an expansion, an improvement. Again, with SeaWorld parks in general, they need as many new coasters, many exciting coasters, many awesome looking, unique attractions as possible, because they are trying to not limit themselves from. I know we talked about Blackfish and all that. They're not really, and I think me and Bob both agree that they're not really like, that wasn't the big issue there. They're actually looking towards trying to become, they see that the thrill market is a lot larger than, the animals. So I think they're not only are they, Blackfish definitely did hurt them a little bit, but I think they're also like, wait, we could probably make a lot more money off of this thrill thing. This thrill thing we got going. We could bring in some thrill seekers with new attractions
Yeah.
and innovation and rides and things like that. And they seem to be starting that off at SeaWorld Orlando with a B&M Wing Coaster. Most likely, we don't know that for sure, but that's what we suggested.
Yeah, and it seems like it'd be a good fit for down there. I don't think are there any wing coasters in Florida?
I don't think yeah, I think the furthest the furthest south you go is Dollywood. And that's the furthest south. So you have like, yeah, I think in SeaWorld Orlando and Dollywood are probably like 12, 14 hours apart. So I mean, you don't got one for a long while.
I think
Unique to the
that would
area.
be a good fit as opposed to King's Dominion.
Yeah.
I mean, a
Yeah.
wing coaster would fit at Orlando, I think, because they have some really good rides.
And they don't have a lot of roller coasters either. It's not like there you could pretty much add anything. At King's Dominion, I mean, we don't need a wing coaster. And the wing coaster we're getting, it's not even that like I wouldn't be mine if it was like we talked about before when we talked about it. It was a launched wing coaster and it did some really unique things. Me and Bob would not have a big problem. I mean, we'd have obviously Volcano. We're upset about that, but we wouldn't have a big problem. That would be an adequate improvement, not improvement, a replacement for what Volcano was. But this is just like a filler. It feels very cheap,
Now,
very like let's just throw this here. And I think SeaWorld
here's
Orlando, especially if it goes over the entrance, that's gonna be really cool.
so here's the question for you, James. How upset would you be if SeaWorld Orlando gets a launched wing coaster
Ah,
and
King's
we
Dominion,
get
and we get just a regular old
a chain
chain
lift
lift.
that
Ah,
does a loop and goes
no.
back to the station?
Vertical loop, and that's it. Just one vertical loop. Bob, you're killing me. Ah, you even make me think about that. That would not be fun.
So, what's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on dive coasters and like taking dives, like Six Flags? So if you haven't been watching the news at all, you missed that Six Flags fell flat on their face with the stock market this past week, mostly related to the Chinese parks that the developer over there is basically they're just falling apart and nothing's getting off the ground. And Six Flags announced that they were expecting no revenue from those parks at all. So they were downgraded by Wells Fargo. And then within 12 hours, Six Flags announced that their attendance had been low and there was a decline in attendance and their season pass sales were lower than expected. So Wells Fargo downgraded them again. It's kind of interesting if you have a moment to go look at the stock ticker for Six Flags. It is literally a dive. I mean, it's like up, and it just drops like crazy, like literally like a dive coaster. So this is going to be kind of interesting for Six Flags, I think, to see how they respond to this.
Yeah, it is, and I know we always bash on Six Flags, but again, I think based on what we've seen this year, they don't deserve it. I don't think anyone. I don't think it's fair because you can't say a chain deserves something like that. But I mean, it was kind of expected that they would have a little bit of a struggle after the performance they put up this year with I mean, Max Force opened up. What was it? Half the queue wasn't even completed. West Coast Racers didn't even open, the year it was supposed to open. You just can't do that kind of stuff and expect great turnout. I mean, of course, you can't say that that's everything that affected it, but I think those are definitely side notes of why this happened. Maybe they're not the prime reasons. Maybe there was actual financial, this and that, and China, again, it's linked to China with those parks. But I think there's also an American impact of how they produced their year. Their year was not strong. I mean, it was a very wacky and unsuccessful year for Six Flags. I mean, Six Flags got a lot of heat, not only from the enthusiasts, but general public were starting to take notice. I mean, you cannot announce a ride for 2019 and then open it in 2020 and not say anything about that and just expect people to roll with the flow. I mean, that's just not how it works. I mean, in anything, not just roller coasters, not just theme parks. If you ever open a restaurant or a shop a year late, people are going to lose interest, and it's just going to become irrelevant at one point. And of course, I mean, it still got turnout with West Coast Racers and stuff. I'm not saying that it wasn't still popular and it still wasn't built up and everything, but I don't think you can do that thing and then expect nothing at all to happen.
Well, I think it's kind of funny that, West Coast Racers kind of became a joke at the end. It wasn't like the hype for the ride. It was that, oh, look, it's finally opening.
This thing still exists.
Six Flags is always kind of like, they're the park that just exists, and they do well at what they do.
Being adequate.
Yeah. I mean, there's always a place for that. And like that's why Six Flags exists. Mm-hmm. Especially in the areas where there's like a Six Flags next to other parks. I think Six Flags has the attendance they have because they're kind of the cheap option that you can get there, and
they're kind of they're kind of the McDonald's of the theme park world. They're like, they've always been there. They're not the best, but they're cheaper. They're they're all right. I've never think the McDonald's to be like fantastic, but there's other fast food places like Chick-fil-A that's very highly rated, and Arby's, stuff like that. Those are like the Cedar Fair, Six Flags, SeaWorld, and then Six Flags is kind of like McDonald's.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's kind of my analogy.
That's a good way of putting it. But I think the thing is that it's like, I think at some point there's a point where I don't know. I'm a big believer that, like, people talk about Michigan's Adventure and Valley Fair and these parks, like they don't get anything, they don't grow, and I think that there's a point where a park exists really well in that regard, like as a small park. But I think the problem with Six Flags is a lot of Six Flags parks are in areas where they're kind of surrounded by something that's always new. And, I think at times Six Flags kind of gets lost in that. Obviously the China parks are big. I don't think this was a good move for them licensing out their name so much. And then being reliant upon that income for that licensee, that just, I think they kind of just saw the dollar signs and didn't really think about what the ramifications could be on that. And I think that's the biggest thing that hurt them. But at the same time, like there were a couple of the rides that they opened for 2019 had issues, and I kind of feel like people may have been like, just kind of like nonchalant about like, oh, I'll get to renew my pass at some point.
Exactly.
And I'll be honest with you too. Another problem with Six Flags is I get fatigue just purchasing a pass. Like, you don't know what's going on. You go to their website to purchase a pass, and you can waste an hour there not knowing what you're buying, and you just get so burnt out. You're like, the heck with it. I'm not doing it. And I think that kind of comes into play as well with Six Flags, is like, it's not just like a $60 and you could get your pass. It's, well, add this or add this. But if you add this, that might be a duplicate. But like, you don't really know what you need to add. There's
so much to add.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. It's like, there's nothing really. I don't really know what to compare it to. It's just it's atrocious. And the whole point is they kind of want to trick you into buying things that you don't really need. And I think the membership may actually be biting them too, in a sense, because like I think we're at the point where a lot of people have got a membership and they're like they've had it for 12, 16, 18 months, and they're like, well, we're done now.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to hit that point. And I mean, I think all the membership parks may actually hit that point where it's like, this is getting too much. Like, we're canceling now. And I think once those people would cancel, I don't know that they're going to do it again. So yeah, it's a revenue stream. It's a continuous revenue stream, but like, I just think it's creating so much like confusion that people are just like, yeah, well, I want to go to Six Flags, but it's not worth the hassle of trying to figure out what the best way to get a pass is.
Yeah, and they that's definitely a big thing. They have so many strict policies and things like that as well. Like, I know going to Six Flags Great Adventure, for example, you cannot bring a tripod in. So I cannot bring anything to film video footage with or anything like that because you might take it on the ride or something like that. They do these things to themselves. They kind of shoot themselves in the foot with dumb policy, dumb plans like that. And I mean, they get what they deserve almost. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's not as deserved in terms of I'm saying like they suck, they deserve this. Yes, like they don't, but they set themselves up for failure almost. And
yeah, a lot of the things with Six Flags is they look at things that look good on paper.
Yeah.
To a lot of people in a management position, they may look and say, look, we're like, by banning these things and taking an interest in this, we should project to people that we're really concerned about safety. Sure. Like, yeah, I mean, I want to know the park I'm going to is concerned with safety, but at the same time, like, there's a point where it just gets inconvenient and to be a nuisance and you just don't feel like going.
Exactly. And I was very upset because, especially with Six Flags Great Adventure, I was there for an event and, I was like, come on. And it was morning. I was there for an Ace event and I was like, come on, really? It's just excessive. I was attempting to actually film an interview with some people because I was there for an event similar to, it was an off-season event, but it was during the winter, so the park was still open. So it was before the park actually opened, and we were there getting presentations from a bunch of different parks in New Jersey area. And I was like, really, I can't take a tripod in and set it up in the theater. I'm not even going to go on the ride. The park isn't even open yet. And it was nope. And I was like, they do these things and they upset people. And the only reason you go back is like what you're saying, the cheap prices. That's the big driving force of them. If they were charging Cedar Fair and Six Flags and SeaWorld passes level, they would run out of business. I guarantee you. And of course, they have the rides. They have some very good, solid roller coasters and things like that. And I think those two factors right there are the only reason that they continue to thrive. And you look at Six Flags Great Adventure, the park itself is not very clean. It's not very kept up well. The staff was not very good. The food is not that great. The thrill rides and the low prices are what keep people coming to that park, especially in like the New York area. You have some lower income families around that area. So you look at Six Flags, look at how they strategically set it up. I mean, all their parks are located near big cities, but you look at they're big cities, they're cheap prices, those things go well together. And I think they know that, and I think that's why people continue to go, and I know they know that they're going to keep making money, but when they do things like you run things like how they did this year, it's not going to be a good year all the time. And I think we're Six Flags talked out. And I think we've expressed our grief with Six Flags quite enough there.
Yeah, I do. The one thing I do want to say is with like that's the whole nuisance factor, I think, is a big thing that both Cedar Fair and SeaWorld need to look at. I love everything SeaWorld parks are doing, but I think they really need to really seriously think about their lockers and how that's functioning, because
those things are,
it's a big nuisance. And I mean, right now it's not affecting them, but it could.
You think if SeaWorld operated and Cedar Fair operated in like a style of Holiday World with the lockers, and I mean that I would always go. I mean, I could always take something there. I could always take whatever I needed there. I mean, it would be such a good park. And it sucks because you always have to have, like, there's always a flaw in your park, and that's the big flaws in our parks near us, Kingswood and Busch Gardens, both with the locker policies. Those are terrible. I guess really Holiday World's a perfect park. We should just move out to Indiana and we would be all
Yeah.
right.
Except
That's
we wanna
literally
be
the
around
only
there.
perfect definition of a park that I can think of. I don't think of any flaws off the top of my head.
Knoebels is also.
Knoebels is a very good park as well. That's up there with me as well. But I think Holiday World is my go-to perfect park in terms of policy, in terms of prettiness, in terms of employees. I mean, it was great. I really loved it. All right, so we pretty much just went off on Six Flags. Still love Six Flags. If anyone for Six Flags, I don't want anyone to think that we hate Six Flags or anything like that. It's a solid shame. Again, it serves its purpose in the industry. It just
Right, exactly.
If it really wanted to just take a step up, it would. There's a lot of flaws that it definitely needs to look at changing, and it can. All right, good. 1 second.
What's that?
Is everything functioning well?
Yep. Well, that last segment you started kind of dropping below the threshold again.
Is it? Did I get clearer or what? I mean,
No, it was just like you weren't triggering
over
the talk.
I mean, but you look at.
Like your voice wasn't loud enough
now?
to.
Because I'm talking the same amount I was there.
Yeah, I don't know. There were just a few times there in the last 5 minutes that like there were like words and there was even a whole sentence that I didn't hear because your mic didn't trigger.
I don't know how to fix that, but I mean, everything else it sounds good. So, all right, let's go.
Yeah, it sounded fine.
We're gonna go to Tripsdale now. So we maybe just quickly go over these two because we don't really need to spend too much time on this. All right. This will just be like I'll talk about it, you talk about it real quick, and then we move on.
Yeah, I don't really know that I have. I don't know. Wait, let me read. Suspended thrill coaster. I kind of want to. Vekoma STD.
Just talk about how they're doing good.
I think you have a typo there.
Ah, yeah, I do. I don't even know how that happened. It's not like I have a habit of writing that a lot. All right. Then, yeah, so this is going to just be like a talk, and then you can talk about, no, you love Vekoma. You can talk about how great they are. And then I'll be like, yeah, and we'll move on to the next, and then we'll move on to Coaster Craze. I would like to keep Coaster Craze and Break Run, pretty short, because we're already pushing 40 minutes here. I mean, it's not like it's at this point. It's just because I need to get to bed somewhat decent hour for school. Sadly, all right. If this was not a school night, I'd be like, let's stay up till 2 a.m. doing a podcast. But
yeah,
summer will be.
I gotta get back to work too. So
yeah, exactly. All right, here we go. So Tripsdale is a park in Germany, and they are opening up 2 new coasters in 2020. Haus über Kopf. I'm not 100% sure that's pronounced correctly, but come on, man, I'm not German, so I'm not gonna pronounce that correctly ever. I'm not even gonna attempt to pronounce that correctly. That's my pronunciation of it. So that's gonna be a Vekoma suspended thrill coaster. So they're also opening up a coaster called Volderdampf. That's a little better. Volderdampf. We'll just call it that. And that's a Vekoma family boomerang coaster. So both Vekomas, and actually the designs that we got presented to us, I don't know where it was presented, but they had actually actually 3D models of these 2 coasters, and they were dueling or interacting with each other. I believe it was the inversion of the suspended thrill coaster, and one of the areas of the boomerang coaster were actually crossing over one another. I don't know if that was part of the visual for the 3D model, and that was just them saying, hey, look, these are the 2 coasters we're getting, because it was just little clips it wasn't the entire ride's 3D model. It was just like the inversion it was just the one inversion and then that one little straight section for the boomerang. So I don't know if this is going to be a interacting dueling ride. That's what people are speculating. That's what now people are thinking. There's not a lot of information on these 2 rides out there. I looked on RCDB and looked on a couple other sources. So we don't know, actually. We don't know what these rides are going to do, but it looks like they may interact or duel with each other, which would be awesome, and it would really add to the experience, especially with a new Vekoma ride like this. It'd be something cool.
It would seem weird though to have a boomerang interacting with something else. I mean, it just feels like that would be. I mean, they could be close together, but like as a consistent interaction, I don't know that like that would be hard to do. I
Yeah,
would think.
I
I
don't know if
mean,
it'd be hard to do, but it would be a little strange. It would be a little weird.
I mean,
I don't know how visually appealing it would be.
it's more. I think it's more. It's more ride time. I mean, the boomerangs are a short ride. Well, I guess if you that's right. They
And I don't
do
know,
climb
these are
both ways.
the new Vekoma boomerangs. So they actually have
That's
layouts. They
true.
have layouts as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Are they similar?
I
I
believe
don't
they
know.
actually have full layouts now with these boomerangs. They go
Oh,
out
really?
they go out and they do like a spike and come back. Yes.
Oh, I completely missed that.
Yeah, I
I
believe.
do know the suspended thrill coasters. I am really looking forward to,
Oh, yes. They look
and I
fantastic.
still think that that may have been a good option for King's Dominion. For
A
I
replacement.
mean, obviously another Intamin would be ideal for King's Dominion, but that's not going to happen. So, like, I think that I mean, I mentioned the Merlin's Mayhem idea, the SNS family coaster, mega sized, but the other option I think would be the suspended thrill coaster. I think that would be another good option for King's Dominion.
Indeed it would be. And I'm looking at the family boomerangs. Yes, they some of them look to have full layouts. So I'm still searching a little bit because I do want to see if that's true or not. Yeah, they do. Yep, they're a little bit more. This one has a track length of does not say actually, but it looks a little longer than the OG, the original boomerangs. Yeah, they have a little bit of a layout there with like a little bit of a helix and a turnaround and a couple of turns, and then they go up the spike and come back. So
So,
it's not like the original layout. It's not like the vertical loop and then like that and back up the spike and
well, that's right. The family coaster doesn't go upside down.
exactly. So they have a little bit more of a layout. So this is a lot more. It's actually it would actually be very visually appealing if what I'm seeing is. I mean, this looks really cool. Again, these rides they vary. I don't know how consistent this one is 600 feet long, and yeah, it has a little bit. Yeah, it has a helix. It has a couple of versions. Actually, it would be very visually appealing to see these interact. Actually, so I take that back from my earlier
Yeah.
statement.
So yeah, yeah.
It would be interesting to see, and we still have yet to know. That easily could have been just a marketing thing. Let's show these two coasters together, so let's put them interacting. Who knows? We don't know. There's not a lot of information on these two rides. Again, this is a German theme park, so it's not like we have a lot of enthusiasts deeply diving into them to see what's going on. But this is a 2020 coaster. I don't know exactly when they will open, but Vekoma's making a comeback, at least in Europe, and hopefully soon in the U.S. And
And at Disney.
yeah, and to Disney. At Disney as well. So hopefully in more local parks and like the Cedar Fair and SeaWorld and stuff like that, we'll see some Vekoma family boomerangs. But that is about it for Tripsdale, and then we're gonna go into Ocean Park Hong Kong. So we do have quite a bit of news from our friends across the ocean in both the Pacific and the Atlantic. We just talked about Germany, and now we're going all the way to China with Ocean Park Hong Kong, which is just wrapped up a massive water park and second gate expansion. And they also recently opened up an on-site hotel. So this is a big and upcoming park in China. I believe they're trying to make this the kind of like almost like the Disney. I know there are Disney in Japan and China. I believe there's a Disney in China, but they have yet to really. Is there a Disney in China? I don't believe there is actually.
Uh, yeah, yeah.
Shanghai.
Wait, is it? Yeah, yeah,
I'm not a big Disney guy, so I'm not 100% sure. I mean, I go to the Disney parks, but I'm not a huge like. I don't
yeah.
actually.
Shanghai. I think it's Shanghai. Yeah, there is one in.
There's one in China, but I believe that the article was stating that they haven't really settled themselves out as like the major destination park in China. So I think this park is actually attempting to do that. And you might go, just adding a hotel? No, they are actually in the next 4 years, or the next in the next 7 years, they're going to be expanding it and creating a whole new area of the park. And they're going to be adding a Mauer spike coaster, a B&M dive, an alpine coaster, and what looks like a Vekoma or Intamin looping coaster. So that expansion is going to be actually 2023 through 2037. Excuse me. So that was a lot more than what I said. What did I say? 7 years, something more. It's more like 17. But still, I mean, we have concept art for these things. I don't know how I don't know when they're expecting to release these things. Again, this is Chinese park. We don't know too many details, but based on the concept art, it is a beautiful sight to behold. I mean, the dive coaster goes right next to a large body of water. The Intamin or Vekoma looping coaster actually goes over some water and is like looping through. It looks beautiful. If you guys can look up Ocean Park Hong Kong concept art for their new expansion, I don't know if it'll come up or not, but if you can find it, it looks fantastic. It looks top notch.
I think it's really interesting that an amusement park's getting an alpine coaster.
Yeah, it is. But
does that exist anywhere? I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know. But I actually believe that this park is located on somewhat of a mountain. So as you can see in the image here, there's actually like a cliff that's going to be diving down. So it's not just like a random expansion. They actually have a mountain that would fit this kind of coaster.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I'm not saying it can't be built.
Oh no, I know. I'm just saying that it actually. Dollywood. Yeah, Dollywood should as well. Yeah.
But the thing for me though is like, is it practical? I just can't imagine, like, if you took any of the alpine coasters next to Dollywood and put it in Dollywood, the lines I feel like would be pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know.
And it's because of the braking. I think that it would be more of a frustration to park goers.
I don't know. I mean,
I don't know. Just like,
I feel like they probably have that planned out in advance for this kind of attraction, and especially if it's going to be a destination park for China. I feel like they have that planned out. They could have some sort of like
an upcharge attraction.
A dueling coaster, a dueling station, maybe. Somehow they've tried to fix this. I don't know. But that's interesting in general to see it. I'm interested to see this even happen. Because a lot of times when we see these large expansions like this in parks in other countries, sometimes they get, I mean, we could say that's with Six Flags, but it's also happened multiple other times in different examples, countless examples. So I don't know I'm curious to see. I mean, this is to 2037. So this is an expansion that's going to take place over 17 years. So
yeah, I hope they add more.
yeah. I don't know how likely this is, or what we're going to be seeing when or anything like that. We don't know any details, but it looks like a very, very, very visually appealing. And then, of course, the Vekoma or Intamin looping coaster looks very awesome towards thrill seekers, but it just in general is visually appealing. And of course, this is concept art, so that's kind of the point. But I'm telling you, this is not just regular concept. This is it looks fantastic. The dive coasters, I don't know if they're located on what kind of large body of water, a lake, a river, or what, but it's right behind that. You can see this huge lake, and it's beautiful. And then I don't know if this is like the main entrance or whatever to like the park, but you're like walking over a path and there's like rocks below you and there's like a waterfall coming down these rocks, and then the looping coaster is going to wind its way right in between the river and the rocks, and it looks so awesome and so beautiful. So that looks fantastic. So that's why I included that on here. I thought it looked very visually appealing. It looked like something Disney would produce, something like that kind of ride. It looks beautiful. Yeah. And so yeah, that's why I included that on there. So China is definitely looking good. That's looking good. If this happens, that is a step in the right direction. So that's about it for attraction news. Excuse me. We're gonna move on to the next segment, coaster craze, and talk about an interesting topic. This is not usually we do like a large topic in the industry. This isn't too large, but it's something that I think we're gonna have fun discussing. So let's do that in this segment.
Now we get to fight.
Are you pro trim brake?
No, I think people pay too much attention to them.
I disagree.
I'm not pro trim brake, but I'm not anti trim brake.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
So there are these things called trim brakes, Bob, and they are not a friend of the enthusiast, the general enthusiast. You don't mind
Yeah.
them. However,
I mean,
we were seeing one being placed in Orion, or as being assumed that that's going to be placed on Orion on its 147-foot
people
airtime
have
hill.
lost their minds.
People have lost their minds, and I think there's good reason. Trim brakes normally on every ride that I've ridden so far that I can think of that a trim brake is very accessible. Leviathan at Kansas Wonderland, Fury 325 at Carowinds, Intimidator 305 at King's Dominion. They significantly impact the ride. I have told you, I have gotten rides on Intimidator 305 where there's no trim brake, and it has been the most insane roller coaster ride ever. It's been fantastic. I've gotten rides on Fury 325 without a trim brake, and it's been insane and the best ride ever. I've gotten rides on Leviathan with no trim brake, and it's been the best thing ever. Apollo's Chariot without its trims on. I mean, even with the mid-course, when the mid-course used to hit very hard, and then this year, for some reason, it was not hitting that hard, it significantly improved the ride experience. I just think that, again, that might be necessary in terms of manufacturer standpoint. I definitely think that this is affecting the ride. Safety.
Or like, I don't want to break my neck.
But that doesn't happen because we've known that because,
okay.
Bob, we have so many coasters. Voyage, they have trims on that ride and they turn them off and everything's fine.
Okay.
You can say it's for whatever you want. You can say it's a wooden coaster. It's for more of a maintenance standpoint.
No.
But it's still, I don't think it has anything to do with breaking your neck or safety like that. Like, we're not going to be that extreme.
Okay. You brought up I-305, and I think this is the point where I've had arguments with a lot of people over. I understand your point of view because there's a mental effect. You feel that trim brake hit, and you feel like, oh, I'm getting slowed down. The thing is, a trim brake is designed to have you exit that brake at the same speed. So essentially on I-305, if you feel the trim brake active, you feel it really hit hard, that means the first half of the ride was faster than normal. And it's slowing you down to the intended speed. You're exiting that trim brake at the same speed or roughly the same speed every single time. It's just what speed you're entering the trim brake at. If there's a big difference, there's a mental effect.
That does not mean anything about the ride experience, though.
But the problem is
just because it's the same speed does not mean that speed is the speed that you're yes, maybe it's the speed you're supposed to be going. That's obvious. Obviously, the trim brake is going to stop you and make you go the same speed every time. But that doesn't mean the first half was going faster than normal. It just means it was going as fast as planned, and then the trim brake hits and you're slowed down because it hits every time.
No, that's the whole point. Because if you don't, like you said you've had rides where the trim brake didn't hit at all. That means the first half of the ride, you actually went slower.
But I agree with that, and that's an interesting point, and I think that's valid and it's true. But I would rather that happen because you actually get airtime on that hill. It ruins the point of an airtime hill to have a trim brake on it. It defies the purpose of having an airtime hill. You get zip zero airtime on that airtime hill.
But it's a mental thing.
But it doesn't matter if it's a mental thing or not. It's a mental thing. It's also a physical thing.
I understand that. But the thing is, I think the problem is trim brakes should probably go in more in stages than what they do, because I mean they hit hard. The problem is if you go through the second half of I-305, exceeding what its intended speed is, that is going to border on absolutely painful.
I don't know about that.
There's already people. I know enthusiasts that don't like I-305 because it's just too intense for them. And I mean, if you increase that speed, I think you could whip your neck around a little bit too much.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't think it would be detrimental. I mean, I think there's definitely a safe point, and then there's also a buffer zone where that you could definitely get to a certain speed and still be all right, and it would be insane and it would be great. Again, I mean, obviously there's safety precautions and the car just can't do that, and I'm not saying that they should, but I think it should be designed in a way that it doesn't ruin the second half of the ride. That ride pretty much that trim brake kills the ride, in my opinion. I love the first half of that ride. It is phenomenal. But that second that trim brake, no matter if you want to say it's mental, whatever, It slows the ride down. I don't care if it's supposed to be slowed down. Obviously, it's supposed to be slowed. That's why it's there. It's the purpose of a trim brake. I know that, but that doesn't mean it doesn't affect the ride. It still slows the ride down. The rest of the ride just feels like we had all this momentum. What was the point? Usually, I like to go into the trim brakes, like flying into the trim brakes. You don't really fly into the trim brakes. You go through that like end little curve, and then you go into another curve, and then you go to the pictures, and you go up in that little. It isn't as insane as when you get flung up and Twisted Timbers at the very end at the airtime hill, and how you just fly into the brakes. I love that feeling. In I-305, of course, you're going like 70 still, so you still technically are flying, but you just don't feel like you're kind of lost a lot of momentum. And I like rides where you do not feel like that at all. So I think trim brakes do that. Fury 325 does a good job at not doing that because the trim brakes like more towards the middle, and then you kind of go through a couple of more airtime hills, and you kind of build up a little bit more speed into the brakes. So Fury does of end with a little bit of a bang, a little bit. It could be better, but that trim brake at that point. But I have gotten a ride on Fury. I got a Fury Night Ride last year that the trim did not hit. And I'm telling you, we were flying. And that was injector airtime on that hill. Of course, you're going to say, no, it wasn't ejector. You guys are going to be like, no, it wasn't ejector. It was ejector airtime on Fury 55.
Well, I won't argue that point.
Not you in particular, but I know the audience might be like, nah, come on, really, ejector on Fury. I'm not lying. It was phenomenal. And
there's definitely certain coasters that you can safely turn off the trim brakes. It's just probably too much for the general public. I think Voyage is one of those. You can't. There is the maintenance aspect of it too, but from a general public standpoint, I don't think they could tolerate Voyage ongoing without trim brakes.
Oh yeah. I don't know.
But it's not a safety issue. I-305, I think very well could be a safety issue just because of how intense those switchbacks are. There, those S turns or whatever. I mean, I don't think anybody officially knows what they're called.
Bank turns.
Yeah. I mean, those things are kind of violent. And,
there are none of those. At the end of the ride, it's just like a little bit of none of the, you've already passed through all those, like the most intense banked turns. I think all you have left is that little like banked turn into the picture area, and that's kind of it.
Oh no, there's definitely quite a few. There's like two or three.
There's like two, but they're not as severely banked, and they're not like the insane ones that you do before.
But here's the other thing I want to say. B&M is actually, I think, really good at doing trim brakes in a way that you mentally don't recognize them unless you're looking for them.
I agree.
And I think that's the other problem with enthusiasts is they look and they go, oh my God, there's a trim brake there. Of course, if you look at the trim brake and you're focusing on the trim brake, you're going to feel the trim brake. Quit paying attention to it and you won't even notice it.
It's kind of like a movie. It's kind of like a movie critic. If they have like a little problem with something, they make it ruin the whole movie. I will definitely agree with that. I don't think it ruins the entire ride. I think people are making a bigger deal of it than it actually is.
Absolutely.
But I still think it's a valid claim that it's going to be a little bit, like it's just like, come on, really, it's a little disappointing to see. I'm not gonna. Again, Orion wasn't really exciting me that much in the first place, but it's not a ride that I look at with the trim and I'm like, come on, it sucks now.
I mean, for me, it doesn't change.
There are people that are doing that though.
But like the other thing that I want to say is like I said, B&M I think does trim brakes really well, and they blend it into the ride a lot more.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like on Intamin rides, you definitely feel trim brakes harder and heavier. But I think a lot of that just has to do with the sheer intensity of Intamin's rides. And I mean, they are so close to they push the limits so much that they have to make sure they're not going over that limit. Yeah. And the only way that they can do that is by some more intense trim brakes. But if you don't focus on them as much, they're not, I'm not going to argue with you. Like, I understand that, like, you feel the trim brake hit and you feel like, it slowed us down. But like, to me, maybe on that hill, it feels weird, but like through the rest of the ride, like that doesn't ruin the rest of the ride for me. Like, I can't see getting so upset over a trim brake that the whole rest of the ride is ruined because, oh my God, I felt a trim brake hit.
I think that's perfectly valid for Fury and for Leviathan and for pretty much a lot of rides, Voyage, everything. I-305 just really is the only ride where I am truly affected by that bank turn. I mean, by that trim brake.
Right. And I understand what you're saying. I definitely like, I'm not going to argue with you. Like from that mental aspect, I definitely agree with you. Like I understand what you're saying, but I think the thing is like, that's kind of the trade-off that we have to have for having such an intense ride. I mean, you can't push yourself that close to the limit without having those types of things in place to keep it safe. I mean,
That's fair.
one ride might not make a big difference, but I mean, there's people that are going to marathon it. Granted, that number isn't that high, but like if you increase that speed 5 miles an hour on a repeated, like over and over and over again, that really might taking more of a toll on your body. And I mean,
Well, that's why they have
the
the
designer,
two-ride
the
limit.
engineers did this for a reason. And that's the thing that like, that's what bugs me about enthusiasts that like freak out over trim brakes. It's like that's there for a reason. There's
There's a reason.
it's not like they're trying to ruin the ride for you. Like
I don't deny that. I 100% agree with that. Yeah, and I think it's fair, and I think what you're saying is fair as well. I think there's a gray area where it's more of a it's there. It kind of sucks sometimes, but you just gotta continue riding. It's there for, like you're saying, it's there for a reason. And
one other example,
I think that's where you have to meet in the middle. I think the enthusiasts that people are using this as a reason to hate on Orion 100% is one of the reasons that this is getting so much notice. If this was like any other ride, they'd be like whatever. But it's Orion, so they're like, oh, this sucks. You know, they're making a big
that may
huge
be.
deal.
I don't know. I've heard them. I've heard people. Well, here's another one.
But I think that's a huge reason. Of course, they're definitely going to be like, it has a trim brake. But I feel like if this is Pantheon and there was a trim brake, there might be some big talk, but it's not going to be as much like hate directed towards the ride.
Maybe. I don't know. But I've heard people hate on Beast so much over the trim brakes. And this is the thing. Like, I understand. I don't like the new trim brakes on Beast, but it doesn't change the ride. They feel like they're hitting harder because they reduce more energy at one shot rather than out over it. But Beast runs the same speed in the sections as it always has. And you can't run Beast without trims like that. I mean, you would just you would hurt. You would hurt the wood on the ride. Like you just.
I would be surprised if the train stayed on the track if that happened.
Like the whole like that whole Rose Bowl would just fall over. Yeah. Like I mean, like you can't do that. But I hear it all the time. Like, oh, they slowed Beast down so much. No, they didn't. Yes, it feels a little bit different because of the magnetic braking systems, but you're still exiting that trim brake at the intended speed, as you always have. It's just a different style of trim brake is the thing. They didn't slow it down.
Yeah. I think truly I've come to the conclusion, and this is good. This is good debate. You've not really changed my mind a little bit. Trim brakes suck, in my opinion, but they're necessary. They are necessary evil that, I'd never really doubted that, but I definitely want to reiterate that I think that I'm not fond of them. I don't think anyone's fond of them, but they're a necessary evil sometimes. And
you just have to, if you want to get that close to the throw line, you have to have a safety mechanism to keep you from going over it.
Exactly. And I know with, you could say Orion probably doesn't necessarily need a trim brake. There's B&M's a very safe corporation. They implement a lot of safety procedures. Like I know Griffin at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. I believe you went on this. Did you go on the behind the scenes tour of Griffin?
No, not yet.
I mean, you probably know. They always talk about how B&M actually forced them to put. There's like a weird webbing of steel over top of where Griffin crosses over with the Sky Ride, and they forced Busch Gardens. Yeah, you probably know. They forced Busch Gardens to build that because of the potentially hazardous objects dropping down and hitting people on Griffin. So, I mean, but this could be B&M being like, we need this, whether or not it's totally necessary. They're like, we want to be as 100% safe and implement this trim brake. I don't know.
Well,
it very well could be that.
Also, I think they come in they can come at this at a different, like there's an angle of this that people haven't considered. I think when B&M's building a ride, they build these into the ride so that they can fine tune the ride. Mm-hmm. If you don't have any trims anywhere and you build this ride and you run that first run and you're like, the G-forces are a little bit much, you don't have a mechanism of fine tuning that ride. And I think B&M just puts these there like, okay, we know the physics, we know how things are roughly going to work, but we want to make this the optimal ride. We want to just have the perfect balance. So whenever we first run that first train, we're going to need to fine tune it. And I think that's the whole purpose of putting these trim brakes there.
Mm-hmm.
It may very well be that they don't even use that trim brake.
Yes, there's the option of, we know this
Right.
for multiple coasters.
But
you can
it
just turn them
doesn't
off.
mean that, we have to go back and now we have to re-engineer and add a trim brake. It's already there. We just adjust it. And just seeing a trim brake there doesn't mean that it's going to be active.
Or if and we have yet to know how much it's going to affect the ride. With Fury 325, it's not very noticeable. I mean, you kind of feel a little bit of slowdown. B&M, I think they do a much better job at trim braking than Intamin did with at least i305, because i305, again, it's a tremendous slowdown. On B&M, on B&M's like Leviathan and Fury, and even Apollo's Chariot with their mid-course this year, you don't really feel a slowdown as much. So I don't think it's really going to affect the ride that badly. I think there's a big amount of noise around this because, again, it's Orion, and Orion's had a lot of backlash for being not a giga coaster, so much dumb, stupid stuff surrounding it. So there's just a lot of enthusiasts out there that crave negativity towards this ride. Anything
People
they can
are
get.
looking for a reason.
Exactly. They're looking for a reason to hate
throw
on this.
Orion under the bus.
Exactly, and I think that has potentially what has happened here. So do I think it'll affect the ride? Probably not as bad as people are saying it will. I think
if you don't think about it, it won't. If
won't
you
affect
think
the
about
ride.
it will.
I mean, in terms of the ride, how it would run without it and how it would run with it, of course it would. But, I mean, we have to think about this, and I think this is fair. It is an element of the ride almost. You have to think about it as an element, because sometimes there's elements you don't like on a ride. So even if, you're not a fan of it, you just got to put up with it. I mean, the rest of the ride is going to be great, I'm sure. So are trim brakes really that bad? I think they suck. But, again, they're a necessary evil. They're part of the rides that we have. And, again, Bob's conveyed the point that they are necessary and that they're there for reasons, and they're, we have to think about it that way. And sometimes you just got to look past it and look and ride the ride. So I don't think anyone's a fan of them. I don't think Bob's a fan of them. No one's a fan of them. But you have to realize.
I'd love to just go balls against the wall. But,
I think you actually have to look at it that it is necessary.
Within reason. I personally think i305, if that trim brake wasn't on and I was on a faster train, I don't know that I'd want to go through
I would
second
love
half.
it. That would even if they were like, it's unsafe, you might die, I'd be like, strap me in. All right, so that's about it for the Coaster Craze segment of the show. I think we come to the conclusion again that they're necessary. Trim brakes are necessary. You might not always love them, but you got to look past it and enjoy the ride. We're going to move on to the next segment, and we're going to actually talk a little bit about Orion. We're going to talk about the most anticipated rides of 2020 in the segment we call the Brake Run. That was good.
That was a really good conversation.
Indeed, it was. Very, very good discussion. This has been a good episode.
Yeah.
I even enjoy doing it,
Yeah, I think we're getting into a groove better.
Yeah.
We know more of what to expect and stuff.
And we know what to expect from each other, and we know we know how to discuss with one another.
Yeah.
And that's what people like to hear, is discussion.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to the Brake Run. I especially love podcasts that discuss, because then sometimes you almost find yourself discussing with them. Because then you're like listening.
What's that?
You'll listen to a podcast and you'll start discussing almost with them. Like you'll be like, wait a second, yeah, he's right. Oh wait. Yeah. Sometimes I've even found myself yelling at the pod. I'll be like, no, or whatever.
I mean, I don't listen to podcasts a lot, but I do some, and I definitely feel that podcasts that have two or more people, are definitely better than just one person talking.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, it just feels more like
you have another take.
Yeah.
And there's room for debate.
It's not
and there's
just
room for discussion.
A single person is almost like a lecture.
Yeah, that's why I didn't like doing that format as much. And it was kind of boring for me because I'm just sitting here talking to myself.
Yeah.
This way,
I don't think I could do it.
I mean, I could do it.
I know you can. You did it, but I don't think I could.
Yeah, it's just it's kind of boring. Yeah, there's no room for this. You can't debate with yourself. All right.
I know. I made one video shortly after I was diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos. I made one video talking about it, and I rambled for 20 minutes or half an hour, and even though I could ramble and talk about it, I still just kind of was this just feels so awkward. I don't know.
You
I almost
get
wanted
lost in
somebody
your
to
thoughts
talk to.
sometimes. I literally would sit there and I'd be like, wait, what am I talking about again? Like, you have no. Yeah, I was. Yeah, I'd have to stop a lot and reshoot because I was like, I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. All right, this way it's a lot easier to keep on track. All right, here we go.
Yeah.
So 2020 is upon us. I stated that at the beginning of the podcast. It's crazy, but it's here. I mean, it still feels like we were just talking about, speculating about Pantheon and speculating about all these rides, Bob, and they're upon us now. They're close to opening. We have a couple months, and a lot of these rides will be open, and we'll be able to ride them. It's crazy. So we asked the audience what they were most excited for 2020, and surprisingly, very surprisingly, Pantheon actually capped the top of the list with 22 votes. And
I'm not at all surprised.
I'm not surprised because we're a Virginia-based podcast and we have a lot of Virginia listeners. But I was surprised because I thought I do have a lot of listeners in Florida. And I was surprised that a lot of them did not actually vote for Iron Gwazi. A lot of them spread out their votes. It wasn't all for Pantheon or anything like that. But a lot of them spread out votes for different rides and attractions. And you'd think Iron Gwazi is like, that's what they've been looking forward to for like so long. They've been looking for like that big attraction from one of their parks. Because you look at Florida, they've never had a coaster that this size. I mean, they have a lot of coasters. They have a lot of good coasters, but they don't have anything this massive, this record-breaking thing like that. The tallest coaster in Florida was Mako before this now. So, I mean, this is
all
a
the
big
coaster
step.
enthusiasts, though, are like into traveling. They get out of the state of Florida to experience it. I mean, Iron Gwazi to me is like, I mean, it's going to be a cool ride.
You just took Steel Vengeance, you copy and paste, and you tweak a few things.
I just feel like, I don't know, and some of it has to do with my feelings of Steel Vengeance. I just don't, like, I'd rather ride Twisted Timbers. Like, it feels almost like,
for it.
I think RMC's better at smaller coasters. So, I mean, I'm not putting Iron Gwazi down at all. I think it's going to be a great ride, and it's definitely something that I'll look forward to riding to, and I'll almost definitely enjoy it, and it'll be a top-rated coaster.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just like Pantheon to me is just like,
it is the most unique, the most exciting of the coasters this year. I definitely think.
I mean, it's an intimate thrill coaster. Like we get RMCs all the time. Like we haven't had an in a while. So
a long time. Yeah, it's been a while. And then I definitely thought, if we don't get Pantheon, if Iron Gwazi is not number 2 and Pantheon's number 1, then Iron Gwazi would be number 2, right? That's what I suspected. But no, number 2 was Jersey Devil, and I think the reason is because it's the first custom Raptor that we've seen. Well, so far it's custom. This could very well be a clone.
It's also the first Raptor on the entire East Coast.
Exactly. It's in a very different location than.
I've not been on a Raptor, and this one I will get to. So
exactly. So that is exciting a lot of people. And then that had 17 votes. And then at number 3, we finally got to Iron Gwazi, which had 13 votes. Looks like a phenomenal ride, Bob. I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, again, you just can't look past, especially, I can look past Jersey Devil and I can say, there's already 2, I'm a little more excited for Iron Gwazi. But Pantheon, there's just no way. I'm just so overjoyed that this is happening. And you could say I'm a little biased for Busch Gardens Williamsburg, but I don't care where this was going. This ride looks so awesome, so interesting. It's unique, it's innovative, it's crazy. It's combining, like I said earlier, RMC elements with an Intamin, and we haven't seen that yet, and I'm really looking forward to that banked airtime hill. I'm really looking forward to this entire ride. It looks beautiful, and in about a week from now, we will be standing underneath of it, taking footage of it and getting that's going to be awesome.
Yes,
so
I'm looking forward to that.
You could say a little bit of bias, and I will admit to that bias. And I know, Bob, we both have a little bit of bias, but I mean, the audience spoke. This wasn't us,
I don't know. Maybe.
I think we're a little biased towards why we're so excited for this ride. I think if we were in California right now,
because of Busch Gardens, I'm biased because of Intamin. But I don't care if it was going to Busch Gardens or hey, Clint,
honest,
why don't you build one at Funland?
If this was going to some park in China, we would not care as much. It would not be a top-rated ride. Even if it had the same elements, the same thing, and it was really awesome.
Overseas gets Intamins all the time.
True. That's fair. But, okay, this is going to California. I don't think we'd care as much. We'd still care, but I don't think as much. We'd still be like, oh, that looks awesome. But I don't think we'd say it's our most anticipated ride for 2019. Or 2020, excuse me. I don't know. I just feel that way. I think we're a little teeny weeny bit biased. And I think it's fair. I think it's fair. Again,
if
You
you
love
took Iron
Ridgeline.
Gwazi and Pantheon and flipped them at Busch Gardens, I think I'd still be more excited for Pantheon.
Yeah, I don't. You see, there we go. I don't know. For
If
me,
it was
I
like, if Pantheon was going to Tampa and Iron Gwazi was going to Williamsburg,
well,
I'd still be
if Iron Gwazi was
all
going to
in.
Williamsburg, they would be building up a ground up RMC, and that would be insane. And it would be 200 plus feet, 75 miles an hour, 5,000 feet long. I would probably say I like the Iron Gwazi a little more. So I think there's the bias showing. And maybe your
Yeah,
bias
see,
isn't
I
showing.
wouldn't.
Your bias is towards Intamin. My bias is towards the fact that I'm not really biased towards the fact that it's at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. I'm just biased towards the fact that if Iron Gwazi was going there, it would be so awesome. Like that would be such anything really, anything this large scale we haven't seen at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg for such a long time. We've been getting these like filler family coaster.
Oh,
Like
I mean,
Verbolten.
that's definitely a good aspect of
So I
it
think
for sure.
that's definitely why. So if this was like, let's say King's Dominion was getting another, large scale coaster, and then
I'd faint.
Pantheon was going to King's, and then Pantheon was going to Busch Gardens Tampa, I'd probably say Pantheon still.
If
But because
any
this
of
is
these
going to
rides
Busch Gardens
was
Williamsburg and
going
Busch
to
Gardens
King's
Williamsburg,
Dominion, I'd faint.
and it's just I just think it's a little biased towards Busch Gardens because I haven't seen anything. Especially in my career as an enthusiast, which began in like 2015, 2014, I have not seen a major coaster go to Busch Gardens Williamsburg. I've seen Tempesto, Invader. Those were kind of smaller scale coasters. I haven't seen the Verbolten was right before me, and Verbolten was like the big, replaced Big Bad Wolf, things like that. So I haven't really seen a major
I
thrill
think Invader was a
coaster.
missed opportunity.
Yeah, it was. They had room for a good wood coaster. I mean, it's a good wood
I mean,
coaster. It's a solid wood coaster, no doubt about
it
it.
is.
But it's just not what Busch Gardens
It's
needed.
Mystic Timbers, but they cut the second half of it away. I mean, I feel like that could have been such a
And they
such a
and they don't
major
they didn't
ride.
need another family coaster. They have Verbolten. They have that's what Verbolten was supposed to be. I don't understand what the need for another family coaster was. And they have the
Well,
kiddie coaster. They have Verbolten.
Invader
And
Invader
I
does
get they might
do
need another family coaster. I get that they might have another need.
no,
Maybe, but it
no.
was not
What
for
it
a
is,
wooden coaster. Was not where you put the family coaster. I think you.
it's a height requirement. Invader's 46 inches versus everything else is 48 or 54.
I I
I would have liked to see them add something that was like 42 inches, but
But I think they could have spent their family coaster dollars further down the line with another steel corporation and built a good wooden coaster. This is a good. It's an all right wooden coaster. It's fine. It's good for what it is. It's not insane, and
you know,
this is the only wooden coaster Busch Gardens is probably ever going to get. And
parks
they kind of wasted that opportunity.
parks are really blurring the line of family coaster, though. I mean,
That is a family
Mystic
coaster.
Timbers, you could consider it a family coaster as much as I
No,
mean,
I don't think you can. It has this steep drop. It has a lot of airtime hills. I know. You could say Verbolten has that drop at the ravine.
but the fear factor. I mean, Verbolten, there's kids that won't ride it because they don't want to it's scary. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's like,
Verbolten's only like
well, look at Oscar's
50,
Wacky
60 feet
Taxi.
tall.
It's like it's a family coaster. It's a kiddie coaster almost, and enthusiasts love it. So, I
They're
think the
blurring the line.
definition of
I
family.
agree. Blurring the line is fair, and I think that's happening. But I don't think that is what Invader did. I don't think it blurred the line. I don't think it's
No,
very.
no, I'm not saying. What I'm saying is they could have taken Invader and built it more like Mystic Timbers and still kept it in a category that they could have called it a family coaster. I don't think Invader itself blurred the line.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, to get back onto the topic of the most anticipated rides of 2020, Orion took the fourth place vote. With 5 votes, so that gets a little bit of excitement as well. Abyssus, which is opening up at Phantasialand, got not at Phantasialand. That's the wrong park. Abyssus is opening up at what is it called? Wow, I just had it. Energylandia. Excuse me, Energylandia. Fly is opening up at Phantasialand. There we go. 'Cause I had the two European parks right next to each other. Probably
Fly looks like a great ride.
Fly looks like a great ride. But Abyssus does as well. That's the max spinning launch coaster, which is opening up. And if you've seen the concept art for that, it looks phenomenal. Those two rides look great. Europe's doing great. Energylandia is doing great. That's like a park that is really jumped up on my list in terms of European parks. Like that's up there with Portaventura, Europa Park, all those parks. It looks fantastic. Candemonium was later down the list with 2 votes. And then Texas Stingray was the Lone Star. The Lone Star State got the lone vote of 1.
I think Hershey announced Candymonium way too early.
Yeah, it really died down in the hype factor. And especially for what it was, it didn't do what everyone thought it was going to do. It was just kind of like a generic hyper, B&M hyper. Everyone thought it was going to be like the tallest of the B&M hypers, and it was going to be the fastest, or what? That's what the rumors were. And then we got it, and it was like, all right, let's move on to Pantheon. Let's move on to Iron Gold. Everyone kind of focused on other rides. They definitely announced it, and they announced it too.
Well, I mean,
agree.
We have a lot of B&M, and I think that's kind of like, I think to some extent, I think people are getting bored of B&M.
Yeah.
To a level. I'm not saying
bored, but
I don't want to hate on B&M, but
not bored. I think bored's a poor choice of words. Maybe like it's just more the social, not necessarily social norm. It's more the normal. Oh, we're getting B&M. Great, that's great. It's not like B&M, but you know.
Yeah, it's like I think Candymonium is going to be a great ride, as is Orion.
Candymonium looks to be, you look at the stats. I mean, it's very reminiscent of Mako. It does a lot of the same things Mako does. It just didn't jump out at me like I thought it would. And to say like it was the tallest, fastest, and sweetest at the park or whatever, cool, sure, whatever. But it was like it beat Skyrush by like what 3 feet. It beat Skyrush by like 2 miles an hour. It wasn't like I really thought it would be like 20, 30 feet.
That doesn't surprise me because Hershey has height.
I know they have height requirements, but they have room, I believe, to go a little larger than they did, because that was the rumor that they were going to go a little bit larger than what they did. And
I think the problem is from a coaster enthusiast standpoint. I mean, there's so many more rides at Hershey that are already there that are just phenomenal rides. It's like
Candymonium just doesn't jump out. It'll probably be the second or third best coaster at the park. It's just, I don't know. It's just, it doesn't.
I think the problem with B&M hypers right now, I think that, I mean, obviously I have my niece and nephew. I'm sorry, what was that?
They're almost becoming like a cloned model. It's not cloned in the sense that they're, but they're just becoming the easy filler, put in, do the same type of thing, hammerhead turn around, and then do a helix and you're done.
They're great rides, but the thing, I often look at things that like with height requirements because of my niece and nephew. I love taking my niece and nephew to parks. And I think the thing with B&M hypers is they're like 54 inches, or I think some might be 52. That's a really high height requirement for the level of thrill that most B&M hypers are. And like, I kind of think that B&M would benefit from reworking their restraint system to accommodate shorter riders. Mm-hmm. Because like you go to Hershey, and if you're tall, like if you're 54 inches, I mean, you got Skyrush, you've got Storm Runner, those rides are phenomenal thrill rides. I think Candymonium would be great if it was accessible to shorter riders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. And again, with the clone thing, I don't know if they're not. I'm not saying they're becoming cloned, but they're
not clones.
They're being put in very similar areas. But with Mako is one of the newer B&M hypers, and it's considered one of the best, and it's considered one of the better roller coasters in Florida, and one of the better roller coasters in the world. So Shambhala at PortAventura is also considered that. So I don't know. Fury 325 is one of the newer B&M hyper models. It's a B&M hyper model technically. So I don't know if it's fair to say that, but I don't know. I just, with Candymonium in particular, it just didn't jump out, and it really didn't do what a lot of people thought it was. So I think to announce it that early and to also kind of announce it,
early announcement was bad for them.
Early announcement with the stats that we got, I think was poor choice. If this had been like insane record breaking, I mean, it would have been awesome. It would have built up a lot of hype, and people would have been like, "Holy crap!" But with Orion, same kind of thing. Orion was expected to be the larger.
Even Orion has the sideways airtime hill, and a couple other things that are just kind of like, cool. You look at them and you're like, that's a little new for B&M.
Yeah.
Candymonium is just more of your standard old, B&M hyper.
Exactly. So I think that's a fault. To announce it that early and to announce it as generic as it was a fault. If it had been insane and record breaking, I think this would have been easily one of the better. I think this would be up where Iron Gwazi with 13 votes. It would be up there in that area, but it kind of fell down the list because of how normal it is. It's not bad or anything like that. Hershey is adding a good coaster, and they're adding a great.
And I love
park.
Hershey.
Yeah.
Anytime Hershey adds something, I'm excited because it's just a phenomenal park. It's one of my favorite parks.
Yeah, they do it. Everything they do well, which is important. With and then talking about the Six Flags, everything Six Flags does, they do not do well. So,
it's mediocre at Six Flags, but Hershey does things well.
Yeah. All right. So, speaking of a coaster that we've seen quite frequently and a lot with the B&M Hypermodel, there's a model that we haven't seen in a long time, Bob, and that's called the stand-up roller coaster. And me and Bob have had many discussions about this because going back to the earliest of discussions me and Bob would have on the show, it was our stand-up coasters that are converted from floorless coasters, credits, new credits, and we would debate. I think
we're not going to get it.
We're not going to get into that. That's not what this. The weekly poll for next week is: do you think we'll ever see a stand-up model again from any manufacturer, anywhere? You can let us know what you think, and we'll share our thoughts on that. Because that'll be the breakdown of next week's show. So thank you guys so much for listening to your source for everything roller coasters. This has been a very great. I hope you've had enjoyed listening to this episode because I think it's been a pretty great episode of the show. Follow us on social media: Twitter at @CoasterTalk_pod, and then follow Bob's Coaster Talk account, Coaster Talk Bob at Coaster Talk Bob. That's exciting. He posts his thoughts and things like that on the industry in there. Facebook at Coaster Talk Pod, Instagram at Coaster Talk Pod, and then contact us at coastertalkpodcast.com/contact. Do that as well. And then you email me personally, James at the microphone started doing that again. The microphone started making a weird noise again.
I thought you just weren't being picked up again. I'm like, crap. He's gonna say, "Hey, Bob," and I'm not gonna hear him.
History in there. Let me see where I was at. I think I was talking. I said, I think I got through email. Let me see what I said. /contact. Do that as well, and then you email me personally, James at. I know it cut out, so I'll just say that again. A very great. And then follow Bob's history in there. /contact. Do that as well. And then you email me personally, James at. All right, so I'll start from right there. You ready?
Yep.
How are we going to do the exit? Let's start that before. Because I'm going to be like.
You know what? When are you starting the whole conclusion over?
No, I'm just starting from the email portion. I'm going to say follow, or you can email me personally, James at coastertalkpodcast.com. Because I have everything else. I got everything else captured.
If you want to just end it without me saying anything, that's fine. I think that.
Yeah, I'll just say that's it for me and Bob. We'll see you guys next week or whatever.
Yeah, just do that because it gets kind of awkward. Like the intro, I think works great with me saying hi.
Yeah, it's not really necessary for you to say anything. I guess.
Yeah.
All right, that's fair.
I'm fine with that.
All right, here we go. So your audio is not being recorded then. I'm just going to record mine. So
okay.
Here we go. And you can also email me personally, James at coastertalkpodcast.com, and I will reply to you as soon as you want. If you want to talk about any of the segments we talked about on today's show or anything like that, let me know. Shoot me an email and we can discuss. So yeah, that's been it for this episode of Coaster Talk, your source for everything roller coasters. Episode 57 has now officially come to a conclusion. That's about it for me and Bob, and we'll see you guys all next week. Thanks for listening, guys.
Woohoo!
We are the champions. All right, everyone on the live stream, thank you so much for watching. We had about 6 or 7 viewers at one point. So, at one point, I know we used to have like 15, 20, but we got so off topic and so off schedule that I understand.
Yeah.
We had a good turnout. So, thank you guys for watching.